In 1972, when Apollo 17 astronauts Eugene Cernan and Harrison Schmitt drove their lunar rover nearly 20 miles across the plains of Taurus-Lithro, while most Americans had long lost interest in the space program, a few were still tuned in to the live telecast of the rover missions from the moon. On the evening of December 13th, of the three major networks, only CBS was telecasting the live video of Apollo 17 from the moon, or they were, until NASA suddenly cut the live feed for approximately 20 minutes, when something unexpected showed up on the screens of millions of viewers. At 5:48 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday, December 13th, astronauts Eugene Cernan and Harrison Schmitt loaded up their lunar rover and departed from their landing zone and drove across the plains of Taurus-Lithro. After making several scheduled stops, at approximately 8:40 Eastern Standard Time, telemetry began receiving the signal from the rover. Operators on Earth started panning the camera to obtain a panorama of the terrain. The camera had a 4-second delay due to the distance from the Earth to the moon, and the camera was controlled solely by operators from Earth. As the camera panned past the astronaut in front of the rover, it suddenly revealed a huge rectangular structure in the distance between the rover and the horizon.
Okay, Houston, we've had a problem here.
This is Houston. Say again, please.
Yes. Houston, we've had a problem.
As I walked in, there were people from other countries, a lot of foreign people from other countries in civilian clothes. And at the time, I didn't know what the real purpose of this darkroom and this operation and this facility was. I thought this was where they were bringing the data in and then releasing the images to the public. I had no idea that there were other issues involved in this facility. So he starts telling me all of this information, and I knew that what we were doing was classified anyway, and that he could only share a certain level of what he was doing with me because of the compartmentalized nature of our jobs. At any rate, he told me how everything worked. He showed me the equipment where the digital information came in, where it was converted to photographic images. They were doing 35mm strips of film at that time, which were then assembled into 18.5 by 11-inch mosaics, they were called. there was a digital signature and a grayscale on every 35 millimeter strip. And those strips were from successive passes around the moon. And they would take and build up a photograph. They would scan one section of the moon, then another and another, and then they would get a larger image. So this mosaic then would be put in that contact printer, and that was then a print that was issued to whomever, the press, the scientist, whatever, wherever that was intended to go. So he was showing me how all this worked, and we walked over to one side of the lab, and he said, by the way, we've discovered a base on the back side of the moon. And I said, whose? What do you mean, whose? He said, yes, we've discovered a base on the back side of the moon. And at that point, I became frightened, and I was a little terrified.
What is it? We have some explanation for that. We have none. Don't worry. Continue your program. Oh boy, it's really something super fantastic here. You couldn't ever imagine this. Roger, we know about that. Could you go the other way? Go back the other way. Well, that's kind of rich and pretty spectacular. God, what is that there? That's Apollo. What the hell is that? No, Tango. There's kind of light there now. Roger, we got it. We've marked it. Lose communication. Bravo Tango. Select Jezebel. Yeah. But this is unbelievable. We call her off. Bravo Tango.
I saw this illumination that was moving with respect to the stars. We were smart enough to not say, Houston, there's a light out there that's following us. So technically, it becomes an unidentified flying object.